Hello, this is Mark BH70, the insane orangutan. Greetings, deceivers and non-deceivers. This is insane orangutan. It is June 19th, 2010, Saturday. This is a book, Pagan Christianity. You can read that. Yeah, okay, now I can see that you can see that. Pagan Christianity and a question mark at the end, by Frank Viola and George Barna. I've seen a little bit on this. There's not much on pagan Christianity on the internet. This is what the book looks like again. That's what it looks like. The back looks like that. The side looks like that. It's about that thick, but it's not that much reading. It was written okay. It was written so-so. The point is very good. The point is good. Frank Viola, this man, I've read something, I believe I read something by George Barna too. George Barna, maybe a little bit better, but Frank Viola gets to rambling, and it's really hard to follow him. Well, I mean, it's really hard to follow him directly. He has good points that he writes about. He writes about good stuff. I'm speaking of rethinking the wineskin. I've read another book by him besides this one. There's at least one other book by him, and he can get to rambling, and he's not the best writer, but he has some good points. This has some good points, and I've seen very little reviews on this book. This book was written in, I think it was 2009, 2008, something like that. Copyright 2008, 2002. I guess first copyright was 2002, 2008. This is the version I've got. He makes a good point. You know, if you know a little bit about how churches developed, it's talking about church when it talks about pagan Christianity. The idea is that's where church is centered, and if you know a little bit about what happened with church type stuff, you can see what he's talking about to a large extent. He starts connecting the dots, and without even researching it very much, just what you generally know about the Catholic Church and how the Protestant Church broke off. It's some great points. It is highly annotated. Some people say they're secondhand sources. I've heard somebody say they're secondhand sources. However, a lot of the first-hand sources would be in Greek and German and stuff like that. But it's a valid point. What we have is Christianity that's not at all what it was when it started. So it really shows us how Constantine the first, was he the first pope? Yeah, the first pope, I believe. Accepted Christianity, Emperor Constantine. So it connects the I think the Pope with the monarchy, with the Roman Empire, and he's right. You've got Constantine, who was modeling the church after paganism. I'm not saying it's the same as paganism, but it's kind of cloaked pagan type stuff. The Roman Catholic Church is extremely pagan. That's why you had the Protestants. And what they did was, you know, as far as I can tell, it looked like it was almost planned. However it happened, whether it was planned or not, they really emulated Rome. Luther broke off but practiced the same type of things. Calvin broke off and practiced the same kind of things. People would look to Luther or copy Luther, who was copying Rome, which was copying paganism. So it's just like a poem. I did a poem about this. Can't remember the name of it right now. You can type in poem and my name and find it, probably, or just type it on my front page. My problem with the book Pagan Christianity is, besides the fact that it's not really well written, it's okay, it's written so-so. And besides the fact that I do not believe Frank Voila, and George Barna, George can't hit the broadside of a barn, are really Christians. It doesn't mean much to a lot of people, but you go back to the Catholics and the Rome and the Pope and all that stuff, that they said this was wrong, let's divide from it. People were unsettled about it, and as far as I know, you get a lot of translations of the Bible that are mistranslated, and I believe intentionally. So you got a lot of crap, is what I'd like to say. And I think what they had back in the first century Christianity, really isn't what we have today. What we have today is, I guess, a paganized, is what the book talks about, pagan Christianity, a paganized Christian system. So, you're minus the persecution. They had persecution back then. You really don't have it today. On what we call churches. Also, church is not really, I don't think, a Christian name for it anyway. You can look into that. The idea that that's a pagan-derived word, church. Religion, I believe, is controlled. Through these outlets. At the very least, it's controlled through the outlets. Rome tells you what to do. The Southern Baptists, my family used to be Southern Baptist, I'll say that. It's controlled through the Southern Baptist Convention. The preacher's controlled by money and that kind of thing. I think what George Barna and Frank Voller are trying to do is they're trying to say, let's look at the way, the original format. What was the format? What can we find from the Bible? To me, when Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus, he didn't have a Bible with him. He wasn't looking through the Bible to find God. When Cornelius prayed, he wasn't looking through the Bible in Acts when Cornelius prayed, or when Paul was converted. They weren't looking through the Bible. When Jesus taught, interestingly enough, he did use the Bible, the Bible that they had, as much as they had, to corroborate what he said sometimes. But the idea of logic, why would Jesus say that? That kind of thing, morality. When you talk about a holy church, what the Catholic Church talks about it being Holy Mother Church, is that the same kind of holiness that Paul exhibited? I think what we've got, I think what they really miss is, you've got a whole pagan system. You've got a Christianity that people like, and it's really not the Christianity of the Bible, and they don't see any problem, they don't see anything to remedy there. They don't say, okay, how do we really follow Christ? How do we really be converted and become a Christian? Does that mean we're going to have people like Paul around? The idea that Paul just isn't around, nobody's like Paul anymore, nobody's like Peter, all these people. I think nobody really has the authentic Jesus, because he's been peddled. And I think it really keeps people from knowing God. I think church does. And I've said that before. and I believe it. But Frank Viola and George Barna don't get to the heart of the issue. The idea we're going to act like the Church of the New Testament, which people were afraid to join. No one's afraid to join it now. It says in Acts. Then how do you really be converted? Paul talked about false brothers and all that stuff. How are you really converted? And it's a good book for knocking down what we have. As far as building up what we have, Rethinking the Wineskin is the best book I've read by Frank Viola. There really needs to be an expression of what true Christianity is, rather than what it looks like, what the form of it looks like, the format. And we're going back to format again, which is what we're trying to get away from with pagan Christianity. Thank you.